Welcome, everybody. Paryavaran Divas ki hardik shubhkamnaएं.
Well done, Shombi.
Welcoming also everybody here on this Instagram Live to UN House in Delhi for World Environment Day.
Yes.
And it's my great honor and pleasure as UN Resident Coordinator on behalf of the UN system to welcome everybody there, to welcome both of you. UN House में आपका स्वागत है.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So today we are celebrating World Environment Day, the fight against the triple planetary crisis. And this year, the slogan is our land, our future. We have to work against also land desertification and degradation. Annually, it's over 2 billion hectares have been lost to land degradation. And this has impacts on the most vulnerable populations, on farmers, on food security, production, you name it, across the board. This is an absolutely critical issue. So how can we, as Generation Restoration, do something to change? And today we have with us two really, really powerful people, powerful women. I'm very, very pleased to welcome Dia Mirza, of course, a celebrated actor, but also a UN Environment Goodwill Ambassador and one of the UN Secretary General's Sustainable Development Goals advocates. So welcome, Dia, and I've had the opportunity to work with you on many occasions, and I've seen the incredible work that you're doing across the board. So welcome.
Thank you.
We also have Sanjana, who's a relatively recent youth champion for UNDP, UN Development Program as well. Wonderful to have you joining us here.
Thank you.
And I have to, I'm having a bit of a fan moment. And I have to ask you, did you both arrive on motorcycles?
No, we didn't. But, I'm glad you brought that up because I want to take this opportunity to say that it gives me so much hope to see a young actor like Sanjana so early in her career defining the path and the opportunity to use the influence of her voice to create impact and change. And that is the power of generation restoration. It took me a few years or possibly more to recognize the strength and the power in my voice and the ability to impact change. But she started off with it, and it's absolutely admirable. So well done, Sanjana. And Shombi, you're a star. It's always great to be in conversation with you and share any platform with you. I always learn so much from you. And thank you for being such a powerful advocate for the Sustainable Development Goals and for the great work that you're doing in our home country, India.
Thank you so much. And it took me a few years also to come to this. Probably you can see. But mujhe bahut pasand hai. So
I have to tell everyone that you, and this is what I guess it means when we say generation restoration. Land restoration, land degradation, drought resistance may seem like very abstract terms for people, in everyday life. And people probably think of it and say, but how can I make a difference in these areas? And I think this conversation will hopefully help people discover that we actually can. So let me share with everyone a little something about you.
Please do.
So Shombi was a part of the advertising world, right?
Yes, that's true.
He was telling stories to help people consume more, possibly.
Yes.
And one day he sat up and he said, "Bas, aur nahi. I'm going to use the power of stories to shape and build better lives." And look at him. He's traveled the world. He's worked in different countries. He's telling a very, very powerful story of his own and impacting real change on the ground. So that's the power of individual action.
Thank you so much. And I hadn't planned to start. I mean, you're the stars here. So, and also I should mention, we had hoped to have Afro Shah,
Yes.
Earth Champion as well, UN Environment Earth Champion, joining us from Mumbai. Unfortunately, last minute he wasn't able to join. But a truly, truly transformational individual. I've had the privilege to join him in his beach cleans there, and his individual actions led to what became the world's largest beach cleaning initiatives, and then spun off into many, many different directions as well.
Another great example of individual action.
Yeah. I mean, the best, the
Yes.
absolute best. And I think it's humbling to participate in that sort of action and to see how many people have been inspired. So, maybe, I mean, on that note, I could start with, asking a few questions.
Yes, please.
Maybe first back then to you, Dia. It's World Environment Day. What does that mean? I mean, you've been an activist in the environmental sphere in many different directions for quite some years. Have you seen changes? And what does World Environment Day mean for you, globally and here in India?
I think for me personally, World Environment Day is an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the commitment and the relentless and persistent advocacy and work that so many people have been doing on the ground to protect the health of our soil, our air, our water, our land, and the health of our planet. And these remarkable human beings must be, acknowledged. And so when I say Happy World Environment Day, it's really to say thank you to those people who work tirelessly. But it's also a day that really puts the focus sharp and center on one very simple thing, which is that all life on Earth is connected. We do have only one planet that we call our home, and the health of the planet is in peril, and therefore human actions, human behavior, human consumption, production, everything, how we engage with our natural world is entirely now going to shape our present and our future. And in the face of a triple planetary crisis of biodiversity loss, where we losing forest cover that goes into like millions of football fields a minute, or we're losing species, up to 1 million species, or the fact that our water and our air and our soil has become so polluted that more and more people are sick now than perhaps ever before, and the fact that we are confronted by climate change. And in the face of this triple planetary crisis, what is the role then of governments, of civil society organizations, of industries, of individuals? And how can we participate to collaborate, partner, to propel the action that is urgently required to restore the health of our planet?
Absolutely.
I hope I covered it all.
I think so. And actually, I mean, that resonates a lot with the mission Lifestyles for the Environment initiative that India's kind of taking forward about, individual actions, right?
Yes.
Small things adding up.
Well, so Shombi, I don't know whether it's small actions. Yes, small actions will matter and do matter. Imagine the power of 8 billion people saying, I will turn the tap off while I'm brushing my teeth, or I'm soaping my hands, or I will take a shorter bath. Yes, that quantity of water that you save will be drastic, and that could be quite dramatic. But it's also now, I think, very important to recognize that there are high net worth individuals and there are certain industries that are responsible for emitting much more carbon than most people do. And it's their practices that are harming a lot of societies and parts of the world that should be protected. And those people definitely need to change. So the pressure is on to get them to change, as it should be.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And that's where we, in the UN system, certainly here, that's why we're so privileged to partner with influencers like you. I mean, people who really can gain people's attention. But we work with industries also in terms of circularity, sustainability in the production cycles. So I think maybe then...
I should jump in and ask Sanjana a question, because I think it's very, very relevant for us to know, especially for the generation that she belongs to, where she's come from a mindset or an ideology where, success is equated to being highly consumptive.
Right.
And now we're realizing that lesser is better. What do you feel your generation can and is willing to do, Sanjana? Are they really seeing the crisis for what it is?
I think, firstly, thank you for having me. I genuinely feel that our generation is burdened with, unfortunately, mistakes of past generations, where while we feel compelled to think about our present, which is our employability, our health, physical, mental, we have this undue burden now of the future, because suddenly the future seems bleak and at high risk. Because I remember growing up, climate advocacy used to be focused on a problem of the distant future.
Yeah.
I remember we used to say that 40 years later, the glaciers will melt. For
And
example.
glaciers were melting in a distance. You weren't feeling the heat at home.
Yeah. And today we're in Delhi right now. This is my home city. I have never experienced temperatures like this. So simply at that level, I feel like, yes, us as the youth, we can do so much in terms of galvanizing the strength of collective action. But we need to also understand that we won't be able to solve for the whole problem. Yeah. And it would really make a huge difference if we were taught from when we were little. Which is why my faith in just the force of climate awareness and education being put in from the very start, where individual practices like Diya mentioned, something so simple and basic like turning the tap off, is reminded and taught to us when we're in kindergarten, in right at the start.
Yeah.
Because fully grown up adults don't change behaviors very easily. So I know I made it sound more complex even.
But it's far more complex than you even been able to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're looking at us, or especially me when talking about.
And she kept saying your generation.
But then I think it's, I like to say then the solution is a partnership, right? Between young people, your generation and even younger, and Jo Dil Se Young Hai. The ones of us, young at heart, ready to make a change.
Absolutely.
We can make changes there.
No,
but
100%.
How did you, if I could ask, was there sort of a moment when this inspiration crystallized for you? How did you come to this, climate and environmental activism to use your platform?
I think I advocating for the youth and the power of the youth to change the world is the area that I've felt most for, and it happened very few kilometers from here in my college campus in Delhi University, because I feel like when you're an empowered member of the youth, when you're told that your voice matters, like you said, when you're allowed to develop a worldview, you realize that
you have agency when you have a worldview.
Exactly. These are immense privileges actually in a certain sense, but they're also basic rights. Right. So it's that paradox that when you utilize, you realize that you can really make change. And I was in a peer group that believed in that, where we supported each other and empowered each other. And I don't think any of these fights can be fought alone.
And I feel like, Shombi, now the climate crisis is so tangible. It's so real.
Sadly.
It's so immediate, whether it's our cities flooding or it's the intense heat we're feeling when we are out at work. I mean, I'm not even talking about the luxury of stepping out of an air-conditioned car and experiencing the heat when it hits you hard and you say, oh my God, no. But in that moment, recognizing what is this doing to the daily wage worker? What is this doing to the construction, workers? What is this doing to the farmers? How is it impacting the lives and livelihoods of children, of young people who have to walk kilometers just to get to school?
Right.
And I think that whether it's the heat or it's the floods or it's the drought or it's the smog, it's all hitting home. It's all very real. My mother has COPD. My 2-year-old son is asthmatic. These are not problems of the future. They're not distant. They're tangible. They're recognizable. They're happening right now. Which is why I think the work of the United Nations and all the programs connected with the United Nations are so important. Because what the agencies have done and what the programs have done is that they've equipped people like me with a more defined role, because I have agency, but when it comes with scientific facts, when it comes with, extensive research, and most importantly, when it comes with the understanding that there is hope, that we can repair nature, we can restore the health of nature, we can bring back nature from the brink of extinction. And when projects are successful, like for example, whether it's the Montreal Protocol, which has helped,
Fantastic.
When we were growing up, we were hearing about the ozone layer developing these massive holes in it, and how it was going to kill us, and how more people were going to get cancer. And of course, now more people have cancer, but not because of that hole, which is shrinking and has actually closed. Because the world collaborated, people worked together to see it through. So I don't see why we can't achieve a robust, powerful plastics treaty, or why we can't achieve the ability to restore degraded lands, why we can't achieve, reforesting or restoring the existing forests in our country and the world. So I think that what the science, what the programs, what the campaigns do is they not only inform us, but they also mobilize us into action.
Absolutely. And I think the important message coming from India as well, for example, we saw in the G20, is the critical need for climate justice.
Yes.
We need mitigation and adaptation. We need, it's those communities in the world who didn't create the problem who are paying the highest price. We need
and
resilient
how there's a
infrastructure.
gap in the financial systems, how that needs to change, right? We need more money to be directed in the directions that it needs to go in. You know much more
Absolutely,
about this
yeah.
than I do.
No, a step
But
change, quantum change. in terms of
Absolutely, it changes
financing.
everything.
Yeah.
So I think let's actually now focus, if we can, on how individual actions can make big changes. Shombi, are there any changes you've made in your everyday life?
Changes, I can certainly talk about one.
That kind of point to.
I can talk about one, and I thank you for that. Showing the way. It's carrying a water bottle when I travel.
Yeah.
Yes, because honestly, it used to drive me crazy, always faced with this choice. Do I just, go dehydrated and just like dying of thirst? Or do I take a plastic bottle of water? And I hated that, but I was always putting myself in a situation where I had no other choice. And then I saw your advocacy on the metal bottle, and since then, I think that was actually at IFA. I was persuaded last year. I've been carrying a bottle everywhere I go. So that's just one little thing.
Yeah,
but for me, it's about having the mindset that it's every single moment.
Yeah.
There's a choice that you have, right? So you have to be constantly thinking.
And reminding yourself.
Constantly reminding, thinking, being creative. What can I do every minute of the day, practically? I mean, make decisions. But I think as well, so Sanjana, you've got Dia Mirza here,
Yes.
ready to answer any questions you might have. Do you have anything that you'd like to ask her?
I think on behalf of, the youth at large, looks up to Dia as the beacon of, somehow we place the burden of having answers on her. At least I know I do. Like, Dia has all the answers.
No, I don't. I wish I did.
But I genuinely want to know that, like, if there was that one simple thing that you could tell the youth of just India that could help them live in a more aware, climate, ecologically friendly way, what is that one simple thing that you would say to them?
I think the first thing is, it's very important to acknowledge that a lot of young people in India know better and are doing much better than most adults in the world are.
Right.
They are seeking innovation, they are solving very, very complex problems, and they're doing it with a lot of empathy and love. And I salute each of them. So I really I'm better placed to acknowledge the good work that young people in the country are doing. And the only thing that I would say to those who haven't really identified how deeply linked their lives, their health, their well-being, and therefore their future, their economic prosperity, and the lives of every person they love is linked with the health of the environment.
Yeah.
I would say stop, just pause and recognize that every single resource that is available to you comes from the earth. And you need to understand what relationship you have with the natural world. Build that relationship first. And once you have that relationship, you will discover there is an innate love and an innate bond and an innate ability to suddenly comprehend how magnanimous the earth has been and so generous in supporting our lives. And therefore, the very least that we can do is to form habits that respect that magnanimity that the earth has.
That's, and I grew up in Kansas. My grandfather was a farmer, this iconic Kansas farmer. And I remember going out to the farm every summer. And what you've just described, captures, he had this incredible reverence for the land. Because that was everything, and he was understood already. This was, 60 years ago, the importance of taking care of the land, of not using too much, pesticides, of not.
But that's what our ancestors did. If you even look at the India context, we worship our land, we worship our rivers, we worship our trees, but then what happened when we started moving towards an urban model of development? We forgot that everything that sustains life comes from the earth. And there was a reason why our ancestors worshipped it.
Absolutely. So, dear Sanjana, I'm not sure about the time here.
Are we going to go live? Are we almost done?
We have a few questions from the, coming in from the audience.
Right.
I don't know if we have time to do that. Why not?
We must.
If you don't
mind,
let's give them a chance.
We can do one or two questions.
Excellent. Okay. So, first question, and actually I think this is for you, a good one for you, Dia. Coming from Nina Sharanya Kumar Jagadishwaran from the Manjapai move in Tamil Nadu. And these are Tide Turner champions.
Yes.
And they've done a lot of work with communities to act against plastic pollution, providing alternatives like cloth bags, these sorts of things. So the question to you is, what is the future of climate action in India? Where do you see things going?
I believe that the Sustainable Development Goals and climate action can be delivered by India. We are, because of the fact that we have such a large young population, and the fact that if we truly commit ourselves to mobilizing action on the ground, like we are already demonstrating in so many states, in so many districts and areas, we can bring about huge change. I am so strengthened and energized by the everyday protests by young people in the country, whether it is to save a tree from being felled or from saving 2 lakh trees from being felled, to talking about, and not just talking about, but setting up waste management systems in their neighborhoods, the kind of innovation that they're leading on the ground. I think the climate action movement is robust in India, it's catching on big time, but I also think it's equally important for every one of us to strengthen that youth climate action movement, empower them, and ensure that there is no form of intimidation and that there is no form of risk a young person feels in speaking up for the climate and the environment.
Wow, oh, very powerful. I think we have time for one more question.
Sorry.
Yeah? No.
It took a little longer than I thought
That was
it would.
Fantastic. That was worth every second.
Every second.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one I think is quite good for you, Sanjana. So Anushka and Radhika from Banastali Vidyapith in Tonk, Rajasthan, who are active in community radio, using community radio to broadcast messages about the need to avoid plastic pollution, promoting the ban on single-use plastics in schools and communities, really creating this Jan Andolan in a sense, are asking, young people do not get enough representation at the decision-making table. How can that be changed? That's the question to you.
I think that can, for the most part, be changed by young people believing themselves that just because you're young, you don't have the ability to influence. I think there's many times when we feel, like they are said, intimidated. You may feel like you don't deserve a seat on the table, but your work on ground and your ability to drive change can get you that seat on the table to actually help make and influence decisions. But I think it starts from genuine intention. I do think that only if you're going into it intentionally with wanting to achieve betterment collectively is this possible. Because I will be honest, enough young people are also attracted by simply having the ability to influence decisions. It has to be the right kind of intention.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And make the table.
Yeah.
Build the chair.
Absolutely.
Pull it up there and take your place.
Yeah.
No one can stop you from doing that.
And I think as well, it's you're bringing powerful examples too. You represent the power of Nari Shakti.
Yes.
Right? And this is a challenge across the world. So how do you, maybe I can ask my own question. I'm not from the audience, but
no, but Shombi, I want to ask you. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this question. I think it's so important because women and children are at most risk in the face of climate change. They are most adversely affected, right? How do you think women and the strength that women bring to change can be mobilized to actually impact change on the ground?
Right. Well, I think, first of all, I always say it requires men and boys to be active as well, right? So it's not gender equality, women's empowerment is not just a women's issue. We've seen across the board, the evidence is very clear globally, that when women are equally represented as have more decision-making power in governments, governments are more accountable, corruption goes down. In peace processes, when women are at the table in terms of peace negotiations, the peace deals are longer lasting. When companies have women in management, businesses make better decisions and are actually more profitable. So you see that's across the board, at the country level, the company level, household level, everybody benefits. And I think that's what it's important that men and boys understand that it's really, and actually for men and boys, I always try to tell them, look, gender equality, what does it mean? It means that your contribution as a man or a boy in the process actually goes up. The value, the marginal impact, what you're bringing actually becomes more special. So if you're just 10 guys running a company, you're not bringing very much special based on your life experience. So I think that's the message I would say, is that really it's everybody benefits, and it's an urgent, mamla urgente, as we say. But no, thank you so much. Really this has been fantastic, inspiring, and I don't think we could ask for more.
Thank you.
World Environment
Thank
Day.
you.
And thank you everyone for joining us.
As you mentioned, India has the greatest youth generation in history, right? More young minds to tap than any country has ever had for solutions. And I do agree. I like to say, SDGs dunya mein mumkin hongi, kyunki India mein mumkin hongi.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.